So I'll officially welcome everybody to this week's Acts of Connection. We do run these series as part of the Green Impact program. So my name's Rhiannon Boyd and I support the delivery of Green Impact across Australia and New Zealand. And we're very lucky to have 12 universities across Australasia participating in the Green Impact program this year. So we do run these sessions weekly. If you haven't heard of them before, then welcome to the first one. I hope you'll join us in getting involved in these. They're changing all the time. They're not always sort of presentations and webinars. Sometimes we do things around networking. But hopefully when you come away from an Acts of Connection, you either learned something or met someone new or feel a bit inspired to go on and do amazing actions as part of Green Impact. So I did want to say, for anybody that is on the call today that isn't already part of a Green Impact team, I really do encourage you to either join a team or form a team at your institution. There's lots of opportunities for you to get recognition and reward for any work that you do around sustainability. Most of our programs have been adapted in some way to support working from home, given that we've had this pandemic thrown at us this year, and trying to work around that has been really difficult. So you get to do all sorts of wonderful things as part of this program, including meeting like-minded people with a passion for doing good and creating a better future. So I really wanted to put that out there just in case you weren't a part of a Green Impact team already. And if you were just thinking about joining one or you weren't too sure, I really do encourage you to get involved, because it's now more than ever, it's really important that you support sustainability initiatives like this at your institution. Your sustainability team is working really hard to implement engagement programs like this, and when there's just so much craziness going on in the world, it's more important now than ever that we collectively raise our voices and work towards helping bring sustainability to the forefront, which it can be one of the things that's easily cut or forgotten about or not cared about when there's a lot of other issues happening at the moment. So whilst we've got really big things to sort of try and work our way through, we've got the climate crisis, we've got massive consumption habits across the planet, we've got issues around how we value and care for our natural environment, and obviously we've got all sorts of problems around having equal rights for every person on this planet. So while those are really big issues that we can't solve one-on-one, what we can do is focus on some of the things that we can change in our everyday lives. And that's largely what we're going to focus on over the next couple of weeks as part of Plastic Free July. So I realise it's a pretty heavy intro, but I just wanted to put that out there that, some of these small actions can really be part of a bigger collective effort to work towards a more sustainable future. So just starting to do some of these things now and make some of these changes really does make a big impact. So I wanted to give a little bit of an introduction. Oh, and I've forgotten my slides. I don't usually do slides on Acts of Connection, so I completely forgot that I had these one here. So just going back to make sure you join a Green Impact team. There really are some amazing people as part of this program doing some fun and exciting things. So yeah, getting involved if you're not already. So Plastic Free July is a campaign that's been running for 10 years now. It actually is its 10-year anniversary this year. And it's started out as a really small initiative in Western Australia, actually. So a lovely lady by the name of Rebecca Prince-Roots, I never know how to pronounce her last name, she came up with this program as part of a local government initiative, and it massively has expanded over the last 10 years. So I've got a stat up on the screen here. In last year's program alone, it's estimated that 250 million people across the globe took part in this challenge, and that represented 177 countries. So the main goal of the Plastic Free July campaign is that they're advocating for a world that is free of plastic waste. So a really ambitious but a really important goal for us to be all collectively working towards. From the stats from last year's program, because obviously we're just kicking into Plastic Free July 2020, last year they did some pretty comprehensive surveying of participants, and they found that Plastic Free July participants reduced their household waste and recycling by 23 kilos per person per year, which is roughly around a 5% reduction. And that collectively the program has contributed to a total saving of 825 million kilograms of plastic waste each year. So pretty impactful as an overall program. They also found that 9 out of 10 people have made behaviour changes around plastics that have become habits and a way of life for them. So it's really forming those long-term habits that we need people to be doing. It's all well and good to sort of just do something for a very short period of time, but the idea around this is once you start forming those habits, you keep them in the long term. Another thing that we're seeing with Plastic Free July is the linkages to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Hopefully you're seeing through various green impact programs and toolkits this year a lot more visibility of the Sustainable Development Goals. These represent 17 overarching goals and holistically a framework that we're now working towards when we look at sustainability. So sustainability has moved far beyond what we used to think about in terms of environmental, social and financial sustainability. That triple bottom line was often the way that we thought about, moving towards a sustainable future. Now more and more we're seeing that we're using the SDGs as a framework and guidance on how we try and become more sustainable. And this is at all levels. This is, right through to major governments and global forums, but it's been implemented in local government, in councils. Hopefully you're starting to see this in your universities. So if you haven't seen the SDGs before, I really recommend you look into them. I will be sending around quite a few resources after this session because there's just so much content when it comes to reducing plastics. It's almost impossible to get it even across all the sessions that we're doing. So lots of links, lots of resources and guidance for you if you want to learn more about any of these things. But Plastic Free July specifically has been identified to work towards 4 of the 17 goals. So number 11, sustainable cities and communities. Number 12, which is a really big one, you probably see this in your toolkits if they've been mapped against the SDGs, is that it contributes to responsible consumption and production. And then the other 2 we have is life below water and life on land. So the plastic problem, which we're going to talk about a little bit as we go on, is obviously massive for our ocean and terrestrial environments. So to get involved with Plastic Free July, Green Impact Program through Acts of Connection is focusing on plastic events over the next, there's actually 5 weeks in July. So we're running 4 events specifically for Acts of Connection. So this one very much an introduction to the plastic problem and giving you some starting points if you haven't thought about how you're going to reduce your plastic footprint. And then over the next few weeks, we'll delve into some of the more specific areas. So next week, we've got Hayley from RMIT. I'm not sure if Hayley's on the call. I think she might be. Hayley's actually going to be hosting Acts of Connection next week and talking about plastics in personal care items. I think this one's a real eye-opener if you've never looked into it. And she's got quite a substantial background in that area. So really looking forward to Hayley's section next week. And then we'll also have some DIYs along with that. Amelia's going to be demoing how to make toothpaste, and Hayley's also got a beautiful sugar scrub that she'll be teaching us how to make. So it's personal care next week. The following week, we'll be talking about fabric and fashion. So again, this can be a real eye-opener when you start to realise just how much plastic is used in the fabrics and the clothes that we wear, and what the life cycle of that is, and how those fabrics break down and what impacts that have. So we'll be talking a lot about that in that 3rd session. And we've got Andrea from Victoria University of Wellington, who's also going to be doing a demo of how to upcycle t-shirts into reusable bags, which I'm very curious to see how she's going to show us that. There is a gap you'll notice between the weeks. So we go from the 15th of July to the 29th of July. In that in-between week, we'll be running an ACTS-wide event, so it won't be specifically for Green Impact, but we're collaborating with Keep Cup to run a session which is rebooting reuse and focusing specifically on starting to use reusable cups and debunking some of the myths and misconceptions that have popped up around COVID and how that we, transmission of things and using reusables. So we'll have that webinar running in that in-between week, which you're more than welcome to get involved to join in along with as well. And then finally, we'll wrap up Plastic Free July with a collective plork, which for anybody that has no idea what a plork is, it's based off, the actual term is plogging was the original one, which was where you go jogging and pick up rubbish, but we've gone the slightly less strenuous route of saying plork, where we're going to set on that time and day. Hopefully Green Impact participants from all over Australia and New Zealand will go out into their local areas and pick up some rubbish while going for a walk. It's an opportunity for us to give back to our local areas and get out and about in what I'm sure has been a very confined inside of our homes period for everyone. So that's what we're doing. I know a lot of you have registered for all of the events that we have on offer, so looking forward to having you back over the coming weeks. And each of the sessions, I'm really hoping we can get some good sharing going on between things that you might be doing or suggestions and tips that you have for going plastic free or starting your plastic free journey as well. So the plastic problem, what I've done just to set the frame is I've got a couple of images that I wanted to show you which really speak to me about why we need to make some serious changes and what the issue is around plastics in the global sense. So this is a photo that came out last year, I think it might have been, or it might have even been a little bit older, relatively recent photo that made headline news across the world. And I think it's just one of the most saddest things I've ever seen. Has anybody, I don't know if you want to put in the chat or anything, is there anybody that hasn't seen this photo before? I can't actually see the chat, so probably shouldn't. Let me bring that up. Everybody's silent. Okay, there's a few people that haven't seen it. So this is just one that really, really does speak to me, but I have a few more. Obviously, the plastic problem in our oceans is really staggering. So we've got so many wildlife issues that are arising out of just the oceans being using as a dumping ground for our plastic waste. So I'm just going to let the images speak for themselves and just click through a few more and let you think about what it means to you. So I've used obviously animals as an example of some of the issues with plastic waste, but I could literally have put thousands of photos in here about just really distressing images of plastic in our environment, in our communities. Obviously, plastic waste is a big issue in developing nations. It's massive in Africa and Asia, where they don't have the infrastructure for waste collection or recycling, what we have in a lot of developed nations. Some other sort of really grounding bits of information that I wanted to share with you, or at least get you thinking about, is that every single piece of plastic that's ever been created, from the minute that plastic was invented, which is just after World War II, when plastic first started being a thing, and then we moved into the age of plastic fantastic in the 50s, where we saw a massive transition of plastic just being used in absolutely everything. So every single piece of plastic that's ever been created is still here today and will be here for hundreds, if not thousands of years to come. So it doesn't just disappear when we put it in our recycling bin or when we throw it away. In most cases, it's being stockpiled, or it's being dumped somewhere, buried in landfill or dumped in the ocean. One of the major issues around plastic is that the convenience of it has led to a throwaway culture. And this is where we really struggle, because we've sort of grown up around this convenient culture, and it's really hard now to actually make a conscious effort to avoid plastic. It's almost impossible. Our houses, our clothes, our cars, our food, everything comes either packaged or produced with plastic. It's almost impossible to avoid. Almost, not completely. But yeah, I was really surprised to learn that still 40% of plastic produced every year is single-use plastic. So that's plastic items. It could be a wrapper on, a piece of food that you buy. Its functional value may be mere minutes, but it's going to be here for thousands of years. So I've got a question. I'm curious to know if anybody knows or wants to have a guess at what percentage of all plastic waste ever created. So from the minute we started making plastic to today, what percentage do you think has been recycled, actually been recycled? So I've got some people coming through. Oh, some 2%, 1%. 0.001, okay, 5%. Just see if we're getting any other guesses. So everybody's sort of vibing on the fact that not very much has been recycled. So I'll give it one more second to see if anybody else wants to hazard a guess. Okay. So 9.5%, roughly. Based off global estimates, they say that about 9.5% of all plastic has actually been recycled, which means 90.5% is just sitting around somewhere, either being stockpiled, as I said earlier, buried in landfill, dumped in the ocean, working its way into the stomachs of fish and wildlife and even us. So it's a pretty staggering fact. It was actually the winning international statistic in the UK. I forget the organisation. I've got the link in my notes. They do a winning statistic every year, and this was the winning stat for 2008. 90.5% plastic waste created has never been recycled. So again, a very grounding sort of thing to think about. So what can we do? The purpose of the webinar or the session today wasn't to depress you or make you feel helpless, but we did really want to give some context as to what the issue is and why it's important that we start to take action where we can. So what can we do? We can start simple. There are some really simple and easy things that you can do to change today. You can start from today, and that will have an impact. And we're going to be talking about things that you can do. This image was shared yesterday by the sustainability team at the University of Queensland. And I've seen a few different iterations of it, but I thought it's a really good one to share around. We don't need a handful of staff and students doing zero waste perfectly. We need all of us doing it imperfectly. So it's a really fantastic point to take that, we can just start doing one or two things. If everybody in the whole planet started to do one or two things to reduce their plastic, it would have a massive impact. So if you can walk away from the session today and think, okay, I'm going to swap this product for this product, I'm going to stop using that. Or if you're going to have a conversation with your friends and family around things that you can do, then that's the start that we need to see. As some guidance on really easy things that you should be doing, and I think at this stage, saying no to the big four. So the big four plastics is a big part of the Plastic Free July campaign as well, is that these are some of the major issues that we have around specific types of plastics. Thankfully, we've seen across Australia and New Zealand a lot of movement in the last couple of years to stop using these products, and we're seeing a lot of commercial alternatives, which is fantastic. I think it's quite rare, at least in my experience, to see plastic straws being used. I feel like they've been swapped up quite a lot for sort of cardboard or compostable alternatives. Disposable cups, again, that's kind of something that's had a real big comeback in recent times, unfortunately, because of coronavirus. But there's absolutely no reason why we still can't be using our reusable cups at the moment. As I said, we've got a whole webinar coming up on that, and all the science behind how it's actually safe to use reusables at the moment. Plastic bags, the same. There's really no reason, I think, why we should be using plastic bags in this current day and age. There are so many alternatives, and really funky, fun alternatives that we can be using. I think the main issue is about just starting to implement those behaviour changes so that we remember to bring our reusable bags, and if we don't, we must say no if there is an opportunity to be offered. A lot of retailers don't have plastic bags anymore, or they do have that thicker plastic, which is sort of the workaround, but I still don't think that's a good alternative. Bottled water, I think, is a really big issue still. Out of all of the big four, bottled water is one that there's massive lobbying from sort of big companies that really push bottled water being continue to being sold. So if that's one thing that you can sort of make a pledge to no longer use bottled water, to remember to bring your reusable water bottle. Most of our campuses now, when we're allowed to be on that campus, have water fountains and lots of drinking stations available all over the place. And Australia, or New Zealand even more so than Australia, has some of the cleanest and safest drinking water in the world. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be using almost free tap water as opposed to bottled water, which in most cases they say it's sold as spring water when it's really just filtered tap water anyway. So say no to the big four if you're not already doing so. Be aware of greenwashing. This is something that we've seen a lot of in recent years, particularly around sort of biocup and biodegradable materials. Unless those materials are being used in a closed, a closed loop environment, and that's that the compostable cups are getting collected and taken to a facility that can actually process them. If any of these bio cups or anything that claims to be compostable just ends up in regular landfill or recycling, it doesn't do well in either of those waste streams. It contaminates recycling because it can't be recycled. And it won't break down in landfill. It needs to go to a special facility to be treated under a certain set of conditions. Usually it needs to be heated at high temperatures for a certain amount of time before it will break down. So the reality is that these items are usually more costly for you to buy or for retailers to buy. They often think that they're doing the right thing by using them. But again, unless they're being collected and sent to the correct processing facility, which we don't see very often, they're no better than just your standard plastic lined cups or things that aren't going to break down. So just being aware that there are a lot of products on the market that will say that they're green, but really when you look into it, they're not that much better. A lot of other things that people think that they can recycle as well, obviously coffee cups. We've gone back and forth on that and a lot of different providers, but the general consensus is they are not being recycling. If anybody is collecting coffee cups saying that they are going to be recycled, at the moment they're basically just being stockpiled until there is a commercial quantity to make recycling feasible, which as far as I'm aware, I'm happy to be proven wrong on this, but from the research that we've done, nobody is actually successfully recycling plastic lined coffee cups at the moment. But I would love to hear that, somebody's actually started doing it. Hasn't come to my attention just yet. Other products such as bamboo or wooden products that we see, used as eco alternatives, again, they can't be recycled. So the general line you should take from this is that all disposables are rubbish. You should be following the refuse, reduce, reuse motto that we, I actually didn't put a slide in on that, but it used to be recycle was the thing that we looked for as the standard, where it's refuse, reduce, reuse before we even think about recycling. Yes, follow the waste hierarchy. Thank you. Okay, so I was also going to talk a little bit about the issues with recycling. I just wanted to quickly make one other point, that for the small percentage of materials that actually do make it to a recycling facility that is capable of breaking down those products, the problem with recycling plastics is that they lose their integrity very quickly. So most recycled products are only recycled once or twice to a lower grade product, and then they can't be used anymore. And a lot of materials and resources actually go into that process. So recycling is never the solution. Again, it comes back to that waste hierarchy. Reduce, reuse, refuse, and then think about recycling, and rot is the other one. So that's where we move into composting. So just wanted to make sure that I covered that as well. So one of the areas that is really easy to make some changes quickly and easily is in the things that we buy, particularly for the kitchen and for the home. So we're just going to take you through some DIY things now to give you some inspiration or some ideas if you haven't thought around implementing these changes at home. So Ravina is going to show us how she makes vegan food wraps. So these are an alternative from what we see often as the beeswax wraps. Ravina's got a vegan version to show us today. So I'll pass over to her. And if you want to make your Rav big on the screen, you just need to pin her video.
Thanks so much, Ruth, for having me on Acts of Connection. So just a little bit of background as to why we're making vegan food wraps, not beeswax food wraps. There's a common misconception that honey and beeswax and other bee products don't harm bees. However, bees can often be harmed at at every stage of the industrial beekeeping process. So there are responsible beekeepers for sure, and bee carers that look after their bees, but sustainable beekeeping is not really a priority for many of the industrial beekeepers, I guess. So an alternative to beeswax food wraps are soy wax food wraps. So making these food wraps, as Ree said, it not only is ethical, but it also reduces your plastic consumption. As cling wrap is just a once-off thing that you're going to just throw away after you use it. These reusable food wraps can be used quite often and a lot of times. And for under about $15, you can make between 5 to 10 wax wraps, which is really good. So what you'll need is some soy wax pellets. I just got these from Lincraft and they were only about $7, and this packet can make a good 5 to 10 wax wraps depending on the size that you are going to make your wax wraps. You need some just old material, any cotton cloth, preferably not wool or anything like that, but any cotton that you're going to throw away. This is actually a pillowcase that I can't find the other set for, so I just thought I'd cut that up and use it as the wax wraps I'm going to make today. You need an iron and an ironing board, some baking paper, some grease-proof paper, some scissors, and some coconut oil. So the coconut oil you can just get from health food stores or Coles, and alternatively you can also use pine or daba resin for any tackiness. So if you want to provide that extra stickiness, you can use pine or daba resin, but that needs to be bought online, so preferably on eBay. So to make a square about 20 centimeters to 20 by 20 centimeters, you're going to need half a cup of soy wax pellets and a tablespoon of coconut oil. So the first step that you're going to do is you're going to cut your shapes. So I've cut mine into rectangles. You can cut them as small as you want or as big as you want. You can even get a plate to trace around on your material so you can get an accurate circle, for example. You might want just small ones to cover jars or big ones to cover sandwiches, for example. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to set up your waxing station. So you're going to get some baking paper and make it long enough so that the wax doesn't drip all over the place and it covers your square accurately. you lay one sheet of baking paper down on the ironing board, and then you're going to put your material onto the sheet of baking paper. And then what you're going to do is you're going to sprinkle your wax pellets. So you want enough to cover basically the whole square, and you want to make sure that all the wax pellets goes all the way to the sides as well. So I just use a spoon and I'm just going to sprinkle it on top. Bear with me whilst we do this.
I always love the silence when you're trying to concentrate on something. And
Yeah. So you want to get a good amount of wax across your material, just so that it stays quite waxy. Okay. So I'm just going to make sure that it's all pushed out to the side as well. So then I'm going to grab the coconut oil. So the coconut oil basically just makes it a bit more waxy. As I said, the pine resin or the Daba resin, that makes it tacky. So if you want it to be sticky, you can order that online. I think you can just get it from eBay, online health food stores. But I'm just going to use coconut oil today. So you just want a tablespoon and you just want to drizzle it.
Rab, is your coconut oil solid or liquid at the moment?
It's liquid. It looks solid, but I promise there's liquid in there.
So it needs, because often they can be solid, depending on the temperature.
Just put it in the microwave for about a minute and it'll all turn to liquid. I promise I'm not putting more than a tablespoon. I'm just doing it in little drabs. Perfect. So then what we're going to do is we're going to get another sheet of baking paper. Again, just make sure it covers the whole square. And this baking paper can be used over and over again. So you don't have to use a sheet of baking paper and throw it out. You can use it for all of the wax wraps that you use in a given period of time. So our iron's also going to be set on wool. I find that's the most effective. I'm just going to turn it on. Just let it heat up for a little bit.
Rab, while you're waiting, can we just confirm where you got the wax from?
Yep, I'm from Lincraft. So I just got this packet for $7 from Lincraft. So it's really cheap and there's a lot in here as well. This can make 5 to 10 wax wraps. You can also get it from Spotlight, I think, and you can also get it from eBay, but yeah, it's easy to get it from Lincraft.
So I'm not sure if we have Spotlight and Lincraft in New Zealand. Maybe Andrew, you can let me know. If not, they're sort of anywhere in New Zealand. Okay. Yeah, so basically they're big sort of fabric haberdashery stores like a Bunnings, but you know, in that sort of big box style. So Andrew says any online store that sells candle making supplies, and you've got Lincraft and Spotlight as well. Cool.
Perfect. Cool. And make sure as well you're getting natural organic soy wax. You don't want candle wax, you don't want any paraffin wax or anything like that. You don't want soy wax mixed with any other waxes. It all has to be organic just because you're putting this around your food. So you want it to be FDA approved. Great. So once this is heated up, all you need to do is just iron over it. It takes no time to iron over it, which is good.
Just while you're doing that, Rev, one of the comments has come through saying the problem with buying online though is packaging is most often than not plastic, which is absolutely true. Often a lot of the things that we purchase, you know, even really sustainable or ethical products still come wrapped in plastic or packaged in plastic, which is really frustrating. One of the green impact actions that we see quite a lot in toolkits is to actually get you to get in contact with suppliers of your favorite products or things that you use regularly, and let them know that you want to see changes to how they're packaging and what they're putting out there. Often, consumer driven choices is what can make change. So if we're loud about this and really demand that they come up with alternatives, and we're starting to see that now, even in some of your big food stores and things where you'd never see like these types of products, they're becoming more and more common, which is fantastic to see. And Rav, you've had another question. How hot is the iron?
So it's on a wool setting.
Wool setting.
Perfect. So it's nearly done. So then what you need to do from there is just give it about maybe 2 minutes to cool. Just leave both baking paper pieces on top of the fabric and just give it 2 minutes to cool. After that, you'll start to see the wax solidify. And once you do see the wax solidify, just take it off, and you can either put it on like a clothes hanger to dry, or just leave it on maybe like a baking tray, because the wax won't really stick once it's starting to cool. So this is one that I prepared earlier. And as you can see, it looks quite waxy now. And there are some lines through it, and it's quite sticky. So it's quite nice. So I'll just give you an example, I guess, of how you can cover like a jar. Just make sure when you are covering, you're just molding the wax wrap as well, just with your hands, to give it that extra heat. So the heat is what makes the wax wrap stick to your food.
I have a question, Rav.
Yeah.
I know with the beeswax wraps, there's some, I guess, rules or guidelines around using them, so you don't put them on hot things, and I can't remember what the other ones are. Do you have any tips about how to make them last longer, or when to use them and when not to use them?
Yeah, so you don't want to put them on boiling hot. So I'm just going to turn off the iron. So you don't want to put them on boiling hot dishes or anything like that. If you are cooking something, but then you want to wrap the wax wraps around it, make sure that it is cooled down. Around fruit sandwiches, all of that kind of stuff, that's all fine. But the main thing that you don't want to do is put them around really hot food. So with these vegan food wax wraps, they're a great idea for Christmas or birthday present as well. I've seen online that you can download little like your own kind of gift wrap as well, that you can write, like say Ravina's vegan food wax wraps, and then you can give it as a present, which is a really nice idea. With your food wax wraps, the way that you want to take care of them is just wash them with like a damp cloth. So you don't want to run them under water, just because then all the wax is going to go away. So just give them a wipe with a damp cloth. If you're finding that it's not as sticky, all you need to do is put a bit more wax on it and a little bit more coconut oil. Do the same process on that exact same wrap, and it'll be good as new. So yeah, and you can obviously use the wax wraps on glass jars, takeaway containers, bowls, and it can be a reusable snack bag as well. So it's really simple, which is nice. And then this is the jar that I've just wrapped, and it's stayed there, which is great.
Awesome. Did anybody have any, can you put them in the fridge?
Yeah, you can put them in the fridge. So the fridge is fine, just no boiling hot food.
Treat it like a candle. Were there any other questions for Rav before we moved on? And thank you so much for showing us how to do that. It does look very simple, so looking forward to giving that a try.
Thanks, Ree.
Awesome. Okay, so I also just wanted to follow on from sorry, just changing my thing around, from Rav. If DIY isn't your jam and you don't want to go to that much effort, there are still some really cool things that you can purchase relatively, very cheaply from online retailers mostly. We are, as I said, we're starting to see alternatives to plastic products showing up in a commercial sense a lot more, which is fantastic. Oh, I've just got a comment coming through. What I've done before is to sew the fabric into a simple pouch before waxing it. Oh, that's a good idea. I guess you could make all sorts of shapes and sizes with the wraps, and then do the waxing on them, and they'd be very handy. Thank you for sharing that. But yes, DIY is not your thing. Another cool product that I was actually gifted this as a birthday present last year, which goes to show you what my friends and family think are good things to gift me. They are food shower caps, which are kind of cool as well. So they are made from, it is still a plastic material, unfortunately, but it's one that can be, it's not a single-use plastic, it's one that can be used over and over again. The lining is waterproof, so you could use this on pretty much any product as an alternative to single-use cling wrap or foil or anything like that that you just throw away after one use. They come in different sizes, and they've got an elastic on the base there, so you can just pop that over your container or your food or your jar, and use that as a really good alternative. So you could, if you're handy, you could also make these. I don't know how to sew. I don't have a sewing machine or a needle and thread to save my life. So yeah, not for me, but these are really good too. And making some transitions in the kitchen around how you store your food is a really easy thing to do. You've got your wraps that you can make, you've got covers that you can make, but also just having a good stash of containers that aren't plastic, to either use in the home or to use when you're taking food out. So we're starting to see, it used to be that like a couple of years ago to get something like this would cost a small fortune. They weren't around unless you were on specialty stores that sold them. And, you know, I've heard of people paying for the bento box type style ones of these, like up to $100. Really grateful that they've come down massively in price, I think because of popularity and demand is driving it. I have a bunch of these containers that I picked up from Aldi for $7. So, and they work really well. But my ultimate go-to favorite, if you're looking to invest in something for your kitchen, is the Pyrex reusable dishes that you can get. Again, they come in a range of shapes and sizes. They've got these lids. Now, these ones that I have are over 10 years old, and I have used them in and out for that full 10 years, and they haven't aged a day. So really do recommend, if you are going to invest in something that's not plastic, the Pyrex ones are really good. If you are willing to be a little bit patient and wait, they often go on sales in Coles. So you can see them for as much as 50% off, half price in Coles, and they go on sale like quite regularly. Every couple of months I see them on sale and I pick another one up and add it into my collection. So the Pyrex ones are really good. And there's so many different brands now that you can get that have got different shapes, different compartments. I also love these ones for packed lunches, and I don't know the correct name. They've got a specific name and I forget it. But these are the ones where you unclip them and they've got the little sectioned containers. Tiffins. Thank you, Tiffins. Love these as well. Can't recommend them enough. So if you don't want to be making things yourself, just starting to make some selections and transition what you use at home to these reusables is a great way to start. Now, the next thing I wanted to have a quick chat about was cleaning products, because often this is another one where we can build up quite a large array of various cleaning products in the home. You know, different sprays and different scrubs and things for cleaning in certain areas. So what you can end up with is I think everybody's got like a special cabinet or cupboard in their house that's just full of various sprays and detergents and all sorts of things. So I was going to do a demo and show some recipes, but I thought it's not very interesting watching me pour a few different ingredients into a bottle. So I thought, as I said, we'll be sharing around a bunch of resources. So I'll send through a few different recipes that I've used that I find really good. But I just wanted to highlight that you've probably got everything that you need or close to it in your house with, just standard household items that can be essentially all the cleaning products that you ever need. So the first one I want to talk about is just white vinegar, plain old white vinegar. This is actually branded as cleaning vinegar, but you can do most of your cleaning between vinegar and bicarb soda. So most people have got these in their house with a few different other additives and variants. You can base pretty much all of your cleaning products across these two things. It's hard to find these themselves that aren't in plastic containers, which is frustrating. I deliberately went out of my way to see if I could source any vinegar or bicarb soda that wasn't sold in plastic. I haven't had any luck so far. The only one that I can find that comes regularly in a glass bottle is apple cider vinegar, which, like the cleaning vinegar, the white vinegar, has a lot of good properties that you can be using in your house. So you're probably thinking, has anybody ever cleaned with vinegar and bicarb soda before, just out of curiosity? Yes, bicarb can come in cardboard boxes. I haven't seen it in a cardboard box, but I remember it used to come in like little square ones. I don't know what's happened to that or if they've just disappeared.
Sorry, Ree, can you just say again what you use those cleaning products for?
You can pretty much base any household cleaning product, and I will share recipes on specifics and how you set them up, but you can use these. You can make surface sprays, you can make bathroom cleaners. Obviously, it's a distinction I need to make at the moment that these are cleaners and not disinfectants. Even though vinegar has been shown to have be a very effective antibacterial, antiviral, in just themselves. But I want to be very clear at the moment that I'm recommending these as cleaners, not disinfectants, especially when we're talking about a global pandemic at the moment. So big disclaimer there. You can get a few additives to these, base ingredients to make them smell absolutely amazing. And I've seen a few things popping up in the chat there. So citrus is your best friend when it comes to creating your own cleaning agents at home. So lemon or orange, the rind can be really powerful. Obviously the zest has a fantastic smell, but they also have antibacterial properties to them as well. So you can either use citrus directly from the fruit, putting peels and things and letting it infuse through the vinegar will help improve the smell. Now, you might be turned off by the idea of using vinegar as a surface spray, and while it will smell when you're using it, the smell dissipates once it's dried. I don't notice it to be a strong odor once it's dried. But you can make it better by getting yourself some good quality essential oils. So my favorites when it comes to cleaning products is lavender, bergamot, and tea tree. So I have examples of all of these. Again, they all have their own properties in terms of being antibacterial, being cleansing. They're really good for you as well. Like what Rab was saying, I always buy food grade essential oils because I feel like anything that I'm cleaning my house or I'm bringing into my home, I should be able to eat. That's how you know it's good for you. Although, there are restrictions around some essential oils. You should always read the warnings on the labels around applying them directly to your skin, and obviously you shouldn't be consuming them directly. But essential oils can be food grade. Usually they're food grade because they will be 100% is a good thing. So 100% of a particular, this is 100% lavender oil. It doesn't have any other additives in it to water it down or make it cheaper. Good quality essential oils are not cheap, unfortunately. If you're seeing an essential oil that's saying it's 100% organic and 100% oil of whatever plant it's coming from, and it's like a couple of dollars, chances are it's not real. You can tell if it's a real essential oil because it will always have a batch number and an expiry number. And it will usually have some sort of certification label on it and will quote like the botanical or the scientific name of the plant or flower or whatever it's come from. So they're things to look out for. Check that it's got batch number and expiry number or expiry date, because essential oils will go out of date. And those few other things I mentioned. So bergamot smells amazing, absolutely fantastic. Tea tree is a really good antiseptic. So if you are interested in getting into making your own disinfectants and sanitizers, this is a good product to have as well. And maybe I'll share some recipes and things that you can, if you do want to start making your own disinfectants. So yes, essential oils make your products smell amazing and they're good for you as well. So I'm just checking on dishwashing. Is that for dishes? Yes, eucalyptus is another good one. Sorry, I'm trying to keep going on the chat. I'll just keep finishing off on the last couple of things. Again, as we did with the wraps, if you don't want to make anything, then starting to think about making good decisions when you buy products and thinking about the life cycle of your product. So this is one I picked up recently. It's a surface spray, so just a general cleaner, household cleaner surface spray, but it comes in this aluminium bottle. And the brand is actually promoting, so you buy the initial bottle in the first instance, and from that point onwards, you only need to buy a refill sachet, which is a concentrated version of the product. So when this is over and finished with, you fill it up from the refill sachet. It's concentrated, so you add water, and there you go. You've got a full version of the product, again, with about 80% less of the plastic than if you just bought a plastic bottle, threw it out, and then went and got a new one. These refillable sachets can be recycled through ReadyCycle or from the soft plastic recyclers that you can get in most major supermarkets now. So, you know, if you don't want to make it and you can't make it, you can at least be trying to make good, conscious decisions on alternatives that, you know, are not going to have a big impact on, you know, basically plastic ending up in oceans or landfill. You can get these types of things now. They're becoming more, and I picked this up from Coles, which was fantastic to see. I also saw that they've got bamboo toothbrush in cardboard packaging at my regular Coles, which is a new thing that I haven't seen before. But that's a surface spray. I also have, I've got too much stuff here. You can get these sachets as alternatives in quite a lot of products, including dishwashing liquid, laundry detergent, and yeah, basically anything that you can think of. So that's all I wanted to cover in this session today. If anybody wants to jump on now and give us some ideas or tips or things that we haven't covered, or I think cleaning in the kitchen is where we're focusing on at the moment. So if anybody wants to jump in the last few minutes and share something with us, that would be absolutely amazing. If you don't want to do so on the webinar, I also wanted to bring up our details for our Facebook page, which we really want to start building a bigger community around the Green Impact program and participants sharing ideas and sharing things that you're doing to address your toolkit actions. So if you haven't already jumped on our Facebook page and given it a like and follow, then please do so. We post on Twitter and Instagram as well, using those hashtags Green Impact AU and Z specifically for our program, or you can search the Green Impact program hashtag to get global inspiration on what other people are doing. So I'm going to stop talking and see if anybody else wants to say anything in the end. Any pearls of wisdom or ideas on things that you guys do in your home? Yes, just looking at the questions there, we'll be sharing the recording. It'll be available on our YouTube channel, and I'll also link it on that Facebook page so you can see it. Homemade washing powder. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I've only worked with soap nuts myself. If anybody's heard of soap nuts. They are literal nuts that have a soapy residue in them, and you put them in a bag and they go through the wash. But, oh, Hayley, you've got a recipe for washing powder. If you can share that, that would be amazing. Haven't made it yet. Yeah, if you've got any recipes or want to share anything, feel free to send it through to us. Like I said, we'll be putting together a list of resources to share around. Oh. Well, I think that's it on, we're at the end of we're right on the time for finishing this up. So I want to thank you for joining the session today. I hope you learned something or got inspired to try something different this plastic-free July. And I look forward to hearing all your stories as we go through the next month. Thanks, everybody.